Yeah,
Well, in more detail, obviously.
I'm curious, Al. What did you think of your new hardware?
Um, I think the package that they've done where they have integrated, they sell you, well, I bought the base Rover combination, right? Because I wanted to be able to get corrections um, nearby. I hadn't had luck yet finding a cores solution. So anyway, the integration of the radio and the unit and the antenna and the software to configure it. I mean, it's a sweet, beautiful package, right? Um, Acquisition time certainly fine. I mean, it wasn't instantaneous, but it found a ton of satellites in three different, I'm going to say formats. That's probably not technically correct. Uh, Wonderfully fast. My issue is, I mean, it's probably worth more testing, right? I think uh, it becomes an issue of how well does it deal with deflection, which is like, if you're in a tree-laden area or near a building or that kind of stuff, how well does it deal with that? I was certainly getting better than, consumer grade GPS, which is, a couple meters at best. But it wasn't centimeter level precision. So it's worth further testing it. What is my bottom line result? The ComNav 501G unit that I spent, basically $1,000 a pop on. Awesome performance, but then that's the difference between $1,000 and $250 is really my uneducated, unscientific, no scientific protocol here followed, but that's my sort of gut reaction.
Do you know if you can pipe in? Obviously, you can send in corrections. You don't have to use that radio. You have your choice.
I think what Jeff is trying to do is, get corrections from another source beyond, a base station. So I haven't tried to do that yet. Happen to be in Pennsylvania, and again, Trimble. I think the annual subscription is $3,000. Jeff sent me a link, said maybe you can get Ohio data, which would be decent, and I'd probably still be able to get float, but I haven't worked that out yet. Indiana also has course corrections free to the public, which is nice.
Well, I certainly think it's worth further testing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep testing it until it works.
Well, I have to tell you out of frustration, though, I sent an email to the ComNav guys in Shanghai and said, okay, give me a quote on another set of ComNav devices. And they're going for $890 a pop.
This is what mine looks like. And if we go look at some numbers here, of course, that stuff's in the way. It says it says it can see 56 satellites, or it can track 56 satellites, and it's using 25 of those satellites right now in the solution that it's doing. And there's tons of numbers here. I don't know what most of the stuff is, but
bring up your deviation map.
There it is.
There you go. Wow, that's fantastic.
But that doesn't have enough resolution to show you, so you have to pull up these charts that they have built in. Let's see how you do that. Okay, there's one of them, and here I
And what are you doing for correction data?
This is the CORS data from the Minnesota DOT.
Yeah, that's rock solid. You're fantastic.
So these right here are So if you look at it, 50. So the vertical is not as good. This is from this line here. Can you see my cursor on the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, from this line here down to this line is 10 centimeters. That's 4 inches. So vertically, I'm only getting 4 inches. Well, actually, it most of the time it's in this area. So if you just ignore these extra little spikes, it's doing very well. And over on the X direction, let's see, it's 40, 20. So from this line to this line is 1 centimeter. So this is 2 centimeters there. So everything you're seeing there says twice the resolution, twice better on the X than it is on the Y over here. But again, if you can figure out how to ignore all these spikes, this is staying pretty close there. That's staying pretty close there. And the problem on this deviation map, it just doesn't have enough resolution to show you that it's doing this. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. Now, the problem was I got the thing, I plugged it in, and it either says USB unknown, is the device is unknown, or it said device has failed. And I spent like 2 days digging in my drivers and trying to delete all my old drivers and trying to use different ones. I could not get it to work. So today, out of frustration, I plugged a second USB cable into the board, and it started working. So I probably have a cold solder joint by the first USB connector, because if I just power it from the laptop on the GPS connector that's on there, the USB going to the GPS, the USB will not lock on. So it looks like it tries to lock on and then loses enough power that Windows isn't happy with it. But by plugging a second cable just to give it power, now it's working. So, and I've only had this running for 3 hours now, I think. So like 3 hours ago, I figured out, oh, that's what my problem is. So then I started playing around and then actually got it connected. And I got it hooked to an antenna on the roof right now. In fact, it's connected to this antenna right there. Can I zoom in on that? Yep, there we go.
Can't see it.
Oh, well, how about if I try?
I just don't think you were sharing the window it was just a gray window.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so this is across the top of the roof here. We've got there's 4 antennas up there, and this fifth thing, that's something else sticking up, but it's got 4 antennas, and this thing's pointing right to that one. So I assume I'm using that antenna right there on the roof of the building. And when I run my other stuff, or if I run the moving baseline software with my other receivers, it tells me this antenna and another one are 1.216 meters apart at an angle of like 23 degrees or something. So I got my 2 reference points they're not going to move because they're bolted right to the ceiling up there. And then also, if you take a look here, see, here's the entry door. So I'm sitting right about here inside of this room. And there's a big cable that runs all the way across comes down through the ceiling, runs all the way across. So I've got a big long cable that's hooked onto this thing. And let's see if I can make this work. I'm gonna stop sharing.
What did it say about the second antenna or the distance between antennas? I didn't understand that.
They bolted these antennas on the roof years ago, so they didn't have to go out in the middle of winter to do the GPS experiments. So these cables are simply running across the room and hanging down here on the bench. And right there that's the ends of the 2 cables coming down. And I've just got my receiver screwed right onto one of those. Mm-hmm. And here you'll notice that here's my first cable, the one's got the blue light. It's some fancy cable that I bought that has an LED in both ends. Here's the other end of it. So for some reason my cable lights up, but anyway, just ignore that. So up here, so the red cable plugged in, that's the one. No, actually, the red one is the one that normally powers the radio or talks to the radio. But as they pointed out, you can run, there's like 3 or 4 different ways to power it. And they say you can use any of those, and there's some diodes on the board. And I think something's just wrong there. So the power coming in the connector that's lit up, that one, for some reason, doesn't have enough power to power the board and power the USB. So when I plugged in the red connector, then everything started working. So if you look at the board, I don't know if this is going to focus, but they said that if you get an RTK fix, that your RTK light goes out, and sure enough, it does. So that flashing light, that's the GPS fix light that's flashing. And since I don't have a radio plugged into the board, the other two lights don't do anything.
Yes, then the message you sent me is correct, and I never got an RTK fix.
Yeah, so there's various things that could be wrong there. Either the baud rate is wrong between the two, or there's various things. I thought once I had this running, I could go look at it and figure out, can I ask the receiver to show me the incoming correction data? And so far I haven't found anything. There seem to be lots of windows on there on the software that's running, but I can't find anything that will tell me, show me the correction data coming in. And it could be just all those numbers there that if I look down far enough, it'll say I'm getting this kind of data. And back on the screen, let's see, where did my screen go?
And so the correction data for you is coming in over the internet to your PC through that USB cable back into the unit, right?
Yeah, so it's actually coming into that software that's running. There's just a box up the top here under receiver, and it says interrupt client. And I just turned it off. And you'll notice, let's see if I get rid of some of this junk here. And let's see, what else did I want to turn on? Can you see the where it says 3D and fixed and all that stuff? I've got my little pictures on top of it, so I can't see it right now. So anyway, when you turn off the correction data, you say it is behind, so you can't see it.
I can now. I had to move the zoom.
Okay. So it takes like 30 seconds to 60 seconds after it loses correction data, and then all of a sudden that'll just drop out. And if we're watching the little graphs here, you'll see it change. So it's there. I think it just dropped out. No.
So the 3D/DGNSS/fixed, is that as good as it gets?
Yes, that's as good as it gets right there. And when I start it back up, we might see where it says float instead of fixed, and that's not there. It just dropped to 3D. And if you watch the deviation map over here, it'll start moving now, just like yours was doing.
That's about as good as I got.
I know it'll move quite a ways here. It'll move way out here by the time it's done here. So, and that's just what you expect from uncorrected GPS. You expect it to wander all over the place. So now if I go back in here and on receiver, if I say turn the interrupt client back on, this is all the stuff where you tell it the internet address and your user ID and password and what your mount point is, which tells it which station you want to talk to, I think is what it's doing. Actually, the one in Minnesota averages everything together, so you tell them which type of data you want, and I think either down here you can manually put in your latitude and longitude. If I set this, I can specify that, or if you turn that off, I think it automatically grabs it from the receiver and sends it back to them, so they know which data to send to you. So you can see in the background, see the deviation maps drifting even more now.
How many miles away is the core station? Do you have any idea?
There's one at the airport that's like 20 miles away, and there's one closer that's maybe half that distance away, and I assume it's using the close one. And somehow, if you turn on the binary data when it comes out, I think it'll give you the name of the station that it's using. So now if I turn this back on, if you watch that up there where it says 3D, now it's either going to, and this will also give you, I see right there, it went through 2 levels, and now it's back to fixed. And so it locked on that quick after it, had good data coming in, and I gave it correction data. It took it like 2 or 3 seconds before it locked on. Now, when I first powered it up, what's that?
I was going to ask, have you figured out how to clear the deviation map after you've gotten a fix?
Yes, you go to the top. You go to the top here, and there's his little kind of yellowish icon. You click on that, and it clears out everything. So all my graphs I had across there, that'll clear those out, and it clears out this stuff. And let's see, what's the other thing?
And there you show it rock solid again. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So here, let's try this. There's a button here I can hit it, and it will say, it says, nope, not save configuration, this one. I can do a hot start, or I can do a warm start, or I can do a cold start. So I'll do a cold start, which basically I think is going to reset the receiver. So I'm already putting in correction data, but I'll reset the receiver and we'll see what it does. So see, now it changes to no fix. And you can see it's starting to pick up the big blue bars there from the satellites. It'll slowly start picking up satellites. Let's see if we can get some of those back up here again. So see all the satellites are showing blue. I was thinking they were a different color when it gets going. So it still says no fix. So if somebody's timing this, you can estimate how long it takes for it to lock on and give you your first decent fix. So there's a 3D fix. Now they're starting to turn green. And I think the correction data is still coming back up. But there it goes. I didn't get that DGNS for some reason, but it says fixed. So it's locked on. Here, I'll clear this out. So I'm pretty happy with that, because if I run the L1 only receiver, you can sit there for 3 minutes before you get a final decent fix like we're getting now.
Time for a drive around.
Yeah. And in fact, I had a Novatel receiver I was playing with today, which was part of my driver problems and all that. But it's down to like 30 degrees outside, and I took it out for a couple of minutes. It won't tell me anything unless it can see a view of the sky. So I took it out for 5 minutes and left it sitting on the table till lockdown. I brought it back in. I could see some stuff. And then tomorrow's supposed to be down at 14 degrees or something. So what I might do is just stick it on top of my car and then drive around. But their software isn't as good as this. It got some really crappy software that comes with it. And in order to be able to time how long it takes to get a decent fix, and be able to tell how good the fix is, because their old software gives you this deviation map like we got here, but the new software they threw that out. They don't even have that, and there's so much stuff I can't get it to do hardly anything. So I guess since they charge so much money, they can tell you anything they want. They keep saying, "Oh, this is so great, and it's so safe, such a safe unit," but their software is just crap trying to talk to it. So maybe once it's configured, maybe it'll be good.
It's a beautiful unit. I mean, it's just stunning what they've done.
Yeah. So anything else we need to look at here, or should I shut this down? Or just hide it, I guess. Other than that, there's a lot of icons across the top. You can do all kinds of stuff. That one video I sent out, maybe I just sent it to Al, but a guy was showing, a guy from Tokyo was showing how to start up it was an older version. It wasn't the F9. It was like the M8 or the something 7 receiver he had. But he had some extra windows that popped up that showed all the numbers for satellites. And then when he fed the correction data, he says, okay, you can see that it changed to fixed, and he went over and showed you this window over here, and it had changed. I can't find that window. The thing about this software is they've got all these different options and menus, and it takes you forever to learn where everything's at. So there might have been some more fun stuff I could show you there, but as I say, I'm still digging through trying to find how to set the stuff up and make it display something.
You've got correction data in, and you've got the deviation map. To me, those are the two critical things, because you're going to move past this software and start to feed stuff into.
But as you say, go out and drive around. That's the trick. So drive by buildings, and if I put it on top of my car and drive home, there's a tunnel I can drive through. So that'll make things drop out completely. So if I put, say, a Novatel and this one and my Swift Nav all on my car at the same time, and take a trip home, and then we can see how they act, and that'd be a good thing to try. Unfortunately, all the leaves fell off the trees, so I can't get a real good tree canopy to screw it up. But I'm happy with it so far. For the last 3 hours, I've been happy with it. Before that, I was pretty upset with it.
The one you showed, what receiver is that?
The one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah.
That's that new one from, U-Blox just came out with the newest generation. They now have a receiver that does multi-band. So it does L1, L2, L5, and something else, and it multiple constellations. So I'm picking up 4. Did I show that one here? Let me pull this up again if it's still running here.
You showed it. It's not necessarily intuitive. It has the different maps of the different countries.
This one. So if we take a look at this, right now I'm picking up 5 Chinese satellites, and I'm picking up like 6 or 7 European or British satellites. And here's about 10 GPS American satellites, and here's about 8 Russian GLONASS satellites down here. And so it's receiving all of those at the same time. And I think I'm only giving correction data for the GPS and the GLONASS. So I should go turn these other ones off, but I don't know how to do that yet. I think you might have to go into the command line and say, disable these types of satellites. So I might actually be getting worse data than I could. If I turn off the satellites that are not being corrected, I might get better data than what I have right now. And this right now, that's a very graphic way to show it, where you got the little flags on there so you can see what you're picking up. And I didn't know you could pick up the Chinese satellites at all at this point, but they've been launching more recently. I think they announced they got their full constellation up, but it could be that their orbit doesn't come over the United States. And I know that the Japanese one, those satellites don't come over the United States at all. So I don't think you'll ever see those, which I didn't think we'd see the Chinese ones, but there's 5 of them showing up right now. So you ask about what it would do. That's what it's what it has. It's the multiple constellations, so you can pick up all the different satellites put out by the different countries, and it's multiple frequencies. And I don't know if there's anything here that shows that. The Novotel I had a screen that would come up and tell you the different ones, but I can't think of any way right offhand that'll tell you that, other than if I look at the statistic page and get rid of this. So anyway, U-Blox came out with this chipset, and people are now starting to put it out. So they did a project on Kickstarter, and they put this on that little board that I was showing. And it was, I think I paid $220 for the board and one of their antennas that they're putting out. And then I got free shipping with that, which showed up in 3 days, even though it got lost once. And then there's other companies. There's at least one more company that's has them in stock right now. So there's at least 2 of them you can buy right now off the shelf. And it's something that's brand new, and it's something revolutionary, because this is one of the first cheap ones that you could afford, because people like Novotel, they want to charge you from $5,000 to $20,000 for a receiver, and there's lots of different brands out there, but the big companies want to charge you lots of money. So here's one down to I have about $220 into this, and if you already had the antenna, because you collect this stuff, you collect antennas, you collect boards to test out, and it turns out that right now I'm hooked to an antenna that's on top of the building that the company owns. So it's just a board that's going to make everything much cheaper to do all this stuff without spending thousands of dollars to make it all work.
Is it the one called 9 or something like that?
I posted a link in the chat room, the FP9, F9P from U-Blox.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many satellites you're getting. I mean, most of the time you're struggling to get 7, and you've got like 20. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, I think I said it was using 26 satellites, even though it's tracking 50 some at the time. So I'm looking down this list here, and they also L1. Some should say L2.
So Jeff, you mentioned something about the corrections you're using only work with GLONASS and GPS. Is there a different correction service that you would use for the other satellites?
Well, it turns out that it's based on the correction service you use. So Minneapolis, I think the current system they only have their receiver puts out GPS and GLONASS. Now, if you use somebody else's service, like for instance, Iowa just upgraded theirs, and they just added the L5 band onto GPS, and they also added the full Galileo network. So basically, if I were to go to Iowa, I get a lot more correction data. Or like Al's doing, he's going to get correction data for all 4 of those constellations, because he's got his own base station. So and also the fact that both of them are going to be the same brand, he's going to have a better chance of when he gets this working, he'll have a better chance of it working right, because both of them are going to be picking up exactly the same kind of information. So one picks up the information, sends it out as correction data, and the other one picks that up, and they should match exactly, because they're both the same kind of receiver. And so it turns out that the DOT is putting this data out for free, but there's probably services like SwiftNav is claiming they're going to put out a service that they're going to charge you a monthly fee for, and Novatel has their own system, and various people I see are starting up. They're starting to offer the correction service for a fee, and hopefully it'll be better information, say more satellites and so forth. Otherwise, I'm going to stick with the free data. I'll probably stick with the free data anyway, or do like Al did and get a second receiver for my own base station.
So Jeff, what would be the difference between DOT provides the data, which is the free data, versus the services? What would they add? What's the value of that? I mean,
You're saying what's the value of the free data, or what's the value of having your own base station?
no, like, because DOT provides the free data, right? And then you said the other services of the company also provide the same data, but with some charge.
They do that. So if you live in Texas, for instance, where Al wants to run, the DOT does not offer free data. They have data, but they won't give it to you. So if it goes down to Texas, he would have to pay a service, pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee to get that data. And so the other things are, if you're using somebody's system like that, as I say, the closest base station might be several miles away, whereas Al can have his right now. He's got them probably like 6 feet apart. So he's, if he gets his communication worked out, he should be getting perfect data coming out of the thing. So on one hand, if you use anybody's service, it's probably going to come from some distance away, and the further you are away from the base station, the more variation you're going to get. And so if you have your own, then you can decide if you have, based on the size of your field. I think we were talking about Al's field is small enough. He can put his base station in one corner of it, and anywhere he goes in there shouldn't be a problem. Now, if you have a bigger farm, like say Kyler's got 300 acres or whatever he said he had, you'd either have to, you could move your base station around, or you might be able to put it kind of centrally located, put it on a post somewhere. And then by going to the different fields around that spot, you might be able to get good enough data to do that. So it's a lot of monkeying around. You have to decide, what's available and what you want to spend. That's really one of the things comes up.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah. The other thing I noticed, you got a pretty good lock on the latitude and longitude data. And I was looking at it, it was like about 8 decimal places, and it did not move for like quite a few, maybe even for a minute. And then as for my calculation, that is about 1.1 millimeter precise. So I think that's a lot of precision there, like 1.1 millimeters. I think the 8 digit would be 1.1 millimeter. Because I know—
I assume that chart, those charts that I was showing, I assume is the valid, the positions it's moving. And I said the X was moving, it was staying within like 2 centimeters, and the Y was within that'd be 100 centimeters the other direction. So even though the calculation says it's 1.1 millimeters or whatever, I don't think that's what I'm actually seeing at this point.
I see. Okay, because I didn't see any 8 decimal places move for a while, so I thought that's pretty good, right? Because I think
that's the first time I've seen that, because if I watch on the SwiftNav, I can watch those lower numbers bouncing around a lot. So, okay. And I haven't looked at it on the Novatel because I can't get it to work right now. So, but that'll be something to check.
That's pretty awesome.
But what can be a little bit tricky is when you then start to move it is the low noise, because they're filtering it a lot. And then when you start to need the dynamic behavior, then it's, for example, when you steer the vehicle, then it's filtered too much. So
yes, absolutely.
There can be some tricks behind it that are not good for steering.
They also have settings in these things, and it depends on the brand that you get, but you can tell it, is it a stationary device, or is it I think they have what they call a pedestrian mode, which probably is what you'd want to use for like a farm vehicle. Mm-hmm. And then you have like a normal car, and then they have ones that are like 2 or 3 different ones that are based on if you're in an airplane, and an airplane just flying straight across the country, or you're doing acrobatics. So they have different ways you can set the filters to take that into account. And I haven't played with any of that yet, so I'm going to have to see how well that works out.
It's cool.
Welcome to the future, people. This is we can now get cheap, accurate GPS. So.
Jeff, I think you've mentioned it before. I posted it again. The website RTK Lib Explorer. I mean, it is a fantastic job of comparing multiple GPS units. And again, you're going to hear him say, you know, this unit is a good unit. The graph that's really interesting when he does his tests is where he's able to show how long is it in fix and when is it not in fix. I mean, and in what circumstances does he lose RTK fix?
So you didn't post the actual one for this receiver, did you? Because he did an actual review on this.
Yeah, I read that one over the weekend. This one was the dual receiver. The one over the weekend, it wasn't packaged with the RTK Simple. So this was, he got his hands on an early version of the Z9.
Yeah, he got the one from Gum Sticks. He's going to put one out, and he got one of those up front. And he made the comment to me in a private email that as he gets units in, he'll test them out. So this one here, copy. So this link is his evaluation of this chipset. So it's basically this chip on a different board that he was running. And at the very end, he said, he has a summation at the end of his whole thing. He says, well, but basically this is as good as I've seen for anything costing, you know, that normally costs, you know, 10 to 20 times more or something like that. So he was saying, you know, comparing the results of this to the big fancy ones, just as initial testing, it looked like it was doing as good as the big ones, or as good as the expensive ones. But he then said, well, he have to come back and he's going to have to, you know, do more testing when he gets time and when he gets the other receivers in. But he's got some really interesting ways to test everything, and I struggle with trying to figure out how can I set up a test to know that it's doing what I want. And he's got all kinds of. Number one, if you dig through his whole site, he's got lots of great information on GPS in general.
You're on mute, Al.
Do you have any idea? I was trying to figure out what software he's using to generate these maps. Do you have any idea?
That's RTK Lab. It's got millions of little, again, like that stuff I was just showing you. Well, this one's got even more stuff built into it in the RTK Lab that does all this stuff. And I'm trying to see what it says at the top there. And some of it does post-processing and some of it does in real time. So all the stuff I was doing is in real time. It was just simply as the data was coming in, it was showing the results of that. And then he'll also save the data while he's driving around. He comes back and he can post-process it later. I think that's what he was doing here, was the post-processing. So there's a program. First, he converts his binary data that he saved into a RENIX format. RENIX is like a readable ASCII format, and that's like an interchange format between multiple manufacturers. And then once you get that, you can run it through the plotting programs and look at this information. It's also nice because you can go and you can change the parameters. Because if you're using the first receivers I had didn't have the RTK calculations built right into them. I had to run those on the laptop. But then since you had that, you now had 1,000 parameters you can change to try to make things work better. So you can take the stored data and set your parameters and run it and get a graph like this. So maybe it'd be the difference between the left graph and the right graph. So you change parameters and run it again and see how much better it works. Right. And what he's showing you here, anything that's in green is a good solid fix, and anything that's in yellow is a float. And you notice even when it goes back to float, you don't see it jumping around a lot. So it's still pretty good there.
And I would certainly hope that in the middle of a hayfield, I'm not going to have deflection issues.
Yeah, not unless you get close to the trees or whatever. So
More testing required.
Thumbs up. Jeff, thanks for posting that link on those guys in Germany. They're doing some amazing work on tractors. And one of the videos, I think the one that you posted, shows them using this Arduino Simple GPS in their INS solution. So he's using that with an IMU in a little box.
yeah, that's how I found that in the first place. I was searching for. I thought, well, this thing's been out, a month now. So I figured, well, there's going to be more people posting on it, and that showed up. That was one of the things that it showed up. They said, well, we just got ours, and here's how you hook it up, and they're going to add it into their system. So then I found out it is a whole steering system and a whole package you can buy. And I didn't notice if it was open source. I think parts of it are. I don't know if the whole thing is or not.
That looks impressive. That GPS is blowing my mind. I want to buy one.
I think it really outshines your original Swift receiver that you had.
Man, I've been thinking that it's just worth paying $8,000 to get a solution, because trying to piece all this together, the sensor fusion and then filtering all of the sensors, it's like, wow.
Well, I keep wondering if you have a decent GPS, do you need to put all this extra sensor fusion on? I know here on our vehicle we did, because everybody else was doing that. But if you can just use that directly, and as Al points out, if it may drop out when you get close to the trees or whatever, so you have to account for that. And the simplest way is just simply come to a stop if it does that. So when I get my little vehicle put together, and hopefully it's going to warm up a little bit, I can go out and try some of this stuff and drive it around and see how it's going to act like that.
If it's 19 degrees, I'm not sure it's going to warm up anytime soon.
Well, I was looking at the weather forecast, and it's going to be cold for the next week or so here, and then hopefully it's going to warm up after that. And not too long after that, they decided they're going to send me back to Denmark, so I'm going to spend a week in Denmark, and I was trying to figure out what the weather is there, and I haven't figured it out yet, so just one more thing coming up.
If you would like, we can plan a working weekend in Houston, Texas in February.
I might have to take you up on that.
Then we can go up to Kyler's in April and see him plant.
Yeah. Has anybody heard any more on his plans where he's going to go across the United States planting fields of wheat or something, where he's going to plant 2,000 acres or something was his plan? I haven't heard any more about that, so I don't know how that's coming.
That's awesome. I heard it was 10,000 acres. That's awesome.
Well, maybe that's what it was. So I guess we could follow his schedule and see where he's going to, if he's going to be at a farm close to you, coming soon to a farm close to you. You can go watch him. Or you can be like the Grateful Dead groupies, will just follow him around.
This year or next, he'll probably get it done.
That's a good idea.
One thought on those GPS dropping out. If your solution is dependent on a GPS, you'll get your vehicle stuck along the trees, like you're saying. But Leica has this system where they call it Glide, where they're able to operate for like 10 minutes without receiving that RTK correction. And most of the time, unless you're underneath an orchard canopy or something, if you're just driving along, a perimeter of a field and there happens to be some trees and then you're moving back out, that extra 10 minutes could get you back out into the area. I'm not sure how the Glide works, but having been stuck multiple times around obstacles like that, it would be nice to be able to continue.
And is Glide hardware or software, and is it ROS based if it's software?
No, it's from Leica. It's proprietary GPS solution.
Novotel has something similar to that, and I believe theirs is a combination of, actually I think the one that they call Glide is a thing that will, if your GPS jumps from one point to another, it'll just smoothly transition from one to the other. But they have that other thing that they've got all these cute names for it. One's called a line and one's called glide, and I can't remember what those are called. But they've got one method that's got an IMU built into their GPS unit, and then they do sensor fusion within that. And they were claiming something like 5 minutes. I don't know if they were claiming 10 minutes or not. But if you spend enough money on an IMU, and now we're talking, $3,000 or something for an IMU, and then you put software on top of that, so it's basically it keeps track of, by just measuring your motion, where you're going, and then if you get your GPS back, then it'll correct back to where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
But it seems like it's. But that's another solution. If you buy something like that that's already doing all this stuff, you don't have to screw around in ROS trying to take all these different pieces and figure out how to get them merged together. Because I think the stuff that Kyler was buying, some of the last stuff, I think he bought a unit that's got some kind of an IMU built right into it, and then he gets the dual antenna set up where he can get his heading right off that too. So again, it's just how much money you want to throw at it. If you're willing to put a lot of money into it, you can come up with a solution off the shelf and do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the dual GPS for heading is really valuable. Heading is a nightmare.
That's something else I want to play with when I get back to needing something to play with. It seems like anything I've done in the last couple of weeks has not worked. I spent all day last Saturday trying to get PWM to come out of my microcontroller board for my mini tractor, and I spent all day and I just could not make it work. And finally, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I came to the conclusion that I can't do quadrature decode and PWM on the same timer. So I went to bed, and the next day I looked on the internet. The first guy that popped up on Google says, "Can I run encoder and PWM on the same timer?" And he had this like 2 or 3 pages of code listed, and the one response is, "No, you can't." He says there's one single counter in there, and it either counts up and down for your encoder or you use it for PWM. So it turns out I can't do that. So I'll end up using my first 3 timers for quadrature decode, and then pick some other timers down the line to do my PWM to run my motors. So now I just got to get back to that, but I finally got past that because I was just agonizing over that. And then when I couldn't get my new U-Blox receiver to work, I kept playing around with drivers, trying to delete all the drivers out of my computer, and that wasted another day. So and then when I tried to run the Novatel, the communications of that isn't working. I was trying to blame that on the drivers. So as I said, the last couple of weeks, nothing has gone well for me, but I finally got something working now, and I know how to go back and fix my PWM, so maybe that'll keep me happy for a while.
That's good to know. Those little things can save a lot of time trying to do impossible things.
What was the German company you mentioned that was doing something with the U-Blox GPS?
I think I posted it in the random link. Let's see if I can find it. On the Slack channel, I think it was in the random channel is where that was. No, I don't see that. Where did I put that? Oh, it's lost. Maybe I sent it directly to Matt.
It's in the random.
It is?
Yeah, it's a YouTube link. It's just two. It's 2 above your last post.
Oh, okay. The one says Sarah, CEREA.
Yes.
And then the one above that, because it started off. I think I found the YouTube video, and I was watching that, and then it took me to his like a GitHub page, and then it took me to their actual vehicle page. So there's several links there that takes you through all that. It's all in German or some other language but when it comes up and if it immediately says, "Do you want to translate?" make sure you say yes if you don't understand the other languages.
Yeah.
I was looking for that button on the YouTube video and I didn't find it.
Well, actually, I didn't find it on YouTube. I found it on the other pages. When I went to their page, it pops up and says, Google asked, do you want to translate this? And I said, yes. But so the YouTube videos, you just watch it and go along with it. And, or you try to learn. Yeah, try to learn German as it goes.
I can understand some German, so that's not too.
That's good.
Probably more than I do.
Tommy can translate.
Okay. So the random channel, that's not the same stuff that's in the general channel. So I thought it was just a general channel that was randomized. But,
they're just different categories. You can post anywhere you want. But as I told Matt one day, the majority of the people are either in general or random, because when you get signed up, you automatically get stuck on those. And then there's other channels you can go to if you go to the what's it called? You can subscribe to the other channels. If you just click on the channels on the heading, then it shows you all the other channels you can get to. So you can click on those, and if you like them, then you can say add yourself to it. But there's so few people in the in say like in the lawn tractor and in the projects that if you want to post it and you want everybody to see it, either put it in the general or put it in the random channels.
Yeah. Okay, that's all these. Okay.
I've also heard of people putting like an expensive RTK for the dual GPS for heading, using a lower cost GPS for your heading, and then using the RTK one for your position. I don't know how well that works if that lower cost GPS is hopping around, but maybe you could use your the M8 that you have from U-Blox as your heading GPS, and then use the F9 for your accurate position.
And it depends how you do your calculations. If you use the real moving baseline calculations, it may depend on what you can pick for a receiver. And it could be that the M8 will probably work because it's going to give you accurate information. It's just using half of the bandwidth that's available, but it will probably work just fine to do that. So I was going to try it with 2 M8 receivers, and the only disadvantage is it takes me 3 minutes to lock on, and if I get too close to a tree, it drops out. It might take another 3 minutes to come back on, but I could definitely experiment with that and decide which method I would have to use to make that happen. And even though it's so cold out, I've got 2 antennas up on the roof that I can hook onto right now, and I can do all my testing because I know they're 1.26 meters apart, and it's an angle. It was either 23 degrees or 32 degrees, I think. And that's what I think it was it SwiftNav? One of the things I was running. I think that was the M8 receiver that I was running. I was running that fixed baseline, which meant if the building started moving, it may all fall apart on me. But so I might have to switch it over, change one checkbox to moving baseline, and that hopefully will fix that.
If the building starts moving, I think you have other things to worry about.
That's what I kept hoping, yeah.
And it's time to do like in Tokyo. They grab their 3-day earthquake kit and head under the desk.
I read somewhere that Japan shifted 8 inches on that last earthquake.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. If you were doing precision agriculture, you have to go redo your maps. I guess you could run a correction on all your points or something, but.
There you go, Ross Ag, always thinking about the ag view of that.
What is that going to do to our maps?
Yeah.
So if you know the offset, you always have to add it now.
Okay. Anybody know a company that would 3D print in metal that they want to recommend?
set it out on a cutting table, plasma table on flat metal, and you bend it.
Yeah,
Weld it.
that's the simplest option. So I not being familiar with Pittsburgh, I've got people at work trying to help me find a fabricator here locally. I did also reach out to some online outfits to see what sort of crazy rates they would give me, but we'll see what they say.
So there used to be a site like Online Machine Shops where for do-it-yourselfers, you could upload your plans and then people would bid on the job. And it's kind of like Osh Park where like you can do the low cost option where they're laying out large boards, but maybe your board is only 4 inches by 4 inches. And then they kind of wait till your board fits that run. And then they'll put it on the machine and then the machine will cut it out. You could try to find, this was a long time ago. I don't know if maybe this is 5-year-old data, so I don't know.
Yes, I remember that. So there are many people that do the 3D printing, but I'm not sure if they do the metal though. But there are like, you can find it, there will allow you to find it in your area where they're doing the 3D printing. And then actually send the, the CAD file and they'll just print it for you. Yeah.
It's so low tech. I gotta be able to, I'm sure if I just pull out the yellow pages and find metal fabricators, I'll be able to find somebody.
I'm guessing at this point the 3D metal printing would be expensive.
That's my guess too. It would be ultra
very expensive because the machine itself is like probably expensive.
Yeah, I just found that e-machine shop too, Matt. Thank you. Matt, are we going to be ready for an A/B test when I come in February?
Jiminy Christmas. I sure hope so.
Hey, because I want to tear into that other lawn tractor.
Oh, you want to see a funny video of making brackets for automation kit for a car?
Is it going to make me happy or sad?
Well, I think it neither. You can, if you have like, if you have a makerspace in your town, there's generally people there that kind of specialize in different machines, but like the e-machine shop, you can also export those out.
Yeah, I just need to like put on some dirty jeans and boots and knock on the door of a local machine shop. I'm sure I'll find it.
So I'll show you the end product. These are the mounting brackets. Now these are bent at different angles, but you can see, you can't see my cursor, but these are just slots that are cut, and then there's 2 slots that are cut here, and then you cut out, and that's done with just a plasma cutter. And so you can cut the pieces off, and then you bend them the way that you want them, and then you just weld the sides. That's kind of an easy way to make a bracket.
Very sweet.
Put on your dirty clothes and get into the machine shop.
Yeah.
I didn't show you the picture of me with my welding gear on, but I showed you my terrible welds with all of the little pits in there. That's handiwork.
Believe it or not, I have a wife who wouldn't mind if we bought a MIG welder, so
there you go.
She would be making art, metal art. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we need, metal art.
So are you going to manufacture everything from the base brackets up to the mount of the motor?
That was, I mean, not me personally, but yeah, I was, my intent was to hire somebody to make it something repeatable so that, you know, the next person has, you can just say, hey, do this.
Would aluminum work for you?
I mean, that might be a better question for Matt. How much torque do you think this stuff is under? Aluminum would probably work, would be my guess.
Because if that's the case, it's the cutting's really easy. Drilling is probably you have the drill, and welding wise, you just need the brazing rods, and then those what do you call the torch, and you can weld it really nice.
Mm.
I mean, just in your garage. I mean, make sure that's open, anyways. But you can do that there. I mean, it's easy. A cap. I don't know what the torch's got the special gas. But yeah, that's one of the easiest option.
I'm going to give it a few days to find a metal fabricating guys and see how it go. Come on, it's a big city. There's got to be a simple metal fabrication place.
And then what did you think about the steering shaft, connecting that to the motor? That still use the U-joint, but then connect that rod to the U-joint?
Minimal viable product, right? It would keep the shaft that's currently in the motor, connect the U-joint that we were able to buy, slice off the OEM shaft, and either weld or have it as a failure point, JB weld that shaft to the U-joint. That was my thinking.
I drilled it and put a roll pin in there, and I haven't broke it yet. Ran into a few things, but it still holds.
You tell me again what you did?
I drilled through the U-joint and the steering shaft, and then put a 1/8" roll pin in there.
So no JB weld, just the pin.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It seems to work okay.
Cool.
I just post the YouTube link. How easy that would be for the aluminum, just if it interests you.
Welding aluminum at home, is that the name of the YouTube video? Or how to get to meet your nearest fireman?
You're on mute, Sam. Sam, you're on mute. Okay.
You were on mute, Sam. Sorry, we didn't get to hear your.
No, what I'm saying is it's pretty safe. I mean, really, really safe. It's just not really like any dangerous than what you do with the welder,
That's what everybody says about cooking a turkey in those big grease things. They burn down their garage. Thanksgiving turkey or deep fried turkey. It's simple.
Okay, I'm gonna. You got me wound up now. I will start making calls tomorrow for metal fabricators.
Looks nice. The aluminum looks nice.
Matt, I'm thinking Houston the week after Valentine's weekend. So what would that be, like the 22nd?
Perfect. I'm gonna get my U-Blox F9P on order then. I'm giving up on my $35 GPS.
Jeff, if you want to spend a couple days in the warmth, think about the 22nd.
Thanks for the demonstration, Jeff. That looks really awesome. Is there anything else for tonight? All right. It's great seeing everybody. You guys have a fabulous week.
Thanks, Matt.
So guys, thanks, Matt.